My boyfriend demanded a relationship break but wanted to keep living together. I said fine, but we need a roommate contract. He laughed and signed. He stopped laughing when he got a bill for his half of rent, utilities, and groceries, effective immediately. My name is Naomi Carter, and I'm 29. I should have seen the warning signs when Elliot Hayes, 27, started staying late at work with his new mentor, Danielle Mercer, from the creative team. But love makes you generous in ways you don't even notice until you're bleeding out in tiny paper cuts, one late meeting at a time. We'd been together 3 years, living together for 2. Our expenses were split 70/30ths because I earned more as a software engineer, and he was still climbing in his career as a junior designer. I didn't mind. That's what partners do when they're building something. One person carries more now, so both people can run faster later. 3 weeks ago, he sat me down like he'd rehearsed it in front of a mirror. His posture was careful, his voice softened at the edges, like he was trying to wrap bad news in velvet. I need space to rediscover myself, he said. We should take a relationship break. But stay roommates. It's practical. It's mature. I stared at him until the quiet got awkward. You want to break up, I said, but keep living together. It's not breaking up, he insisted quickly. It's a pause. Like resetting our connection. We stay friends, keep the apartment, and let things evolve naturally. Translation hit me so clean it almost felt calm. He wanted to test drive someone else while keeping me as his safety net and keeping my 70% contribution, like it was some kind of loyalty discount he'd earned. I surprised him by nodding. Okay, I said. My voice didn't shake. I didn't bargain. I didn't cry. But if we're not partners, we're roommates, and roommates need a formal contract. He blinked, then laughed like I'd told a joke meant for someone else. You're such a nerd, he said, waving a hand. Fine, whatever helps you cope. That night, I drafted a detailed roommate contract. Nothing spiteful, just clear standard boundaries, 50/50th split on rent, and household costs, separate groceries unless agreed guest rules, quiet hours, cleaning schedule, 30-day notice for moving out, and no overnight guests more than 2 nights per week. I made it boring on purpose. Boring is what holds up in court. Boring is what people can't argue with when they're trying to rewrite reality. The next morning, I printed 2 copies and set them on the counter. Elliot barely skimmed it. This is so over the top, he said, signing with a dramatic little flourish. But sure, if it makes you feel better. I smiled like we were discussing weather. I just want clear boundaries since we're starting fresh. That was Wednesday. Thursday morning, I woke up to an empty bed and a phone screen that said 6:12 a.m. with no message. He didn't come home. I didn't text. I didn't chase. I moved my things into the spare room with the same steady hands I use when I'm debugging code at 2 a.m., quiet, focused, and done with surprises. By Thursday evening, I calculated his half of rent, itemized the utilities split, the household subscriptions, separated groceries into labeled bins, and sent him a request for his share. Friday morning, I left the invoice on the kitchen counter with a sticky note, due by the 1st per our contract. He found it when he got home from a work dinner at 11 p.m. The door shut harder than necessary, and his footsteps were heavy enough to announce a mood. What the hell is this? He snapped, holding up my neatly stapled pages like they were offensive. Your half of the expenses, I said, not looking up from my laptop. Per the contract we both signed. His mouth opened, then closed. That was just Naomi. I thought you were being dramatic. You've always paid more. That was when you were my boyfriend, I said. Now you're my roommate. Roommates split costs equally. His face cycled through emotions so fast it was almost impressive. Disbelief, embarrassment, anger, then fear the kind he couldn't hide. I can't afford $1.227 right now. I finally looked at him. Maybe you should have considered that before suggesting we become roommates. He stormed off, slamming his door. 20 minutes later, I heard him on the phone in the hallway, voice lowered but not low enough. She's being such a baby about it, he hissed. No, I can crash at your place. What do you mean your roommate wouldn't be okay with that? So Danielle's living situation wasn't as open as Elliot thought. Interesting. Over the next few days, the entitlement didn't just show up, it strutted. First, he tried guilt, like romance could erase math. He cooked my favorite dish using ingredients I'd bought before the contract went into effect. Lit candles, put on the cologne he knew made me lean in without thinking. When I walked past the table, he reached for my hand. I miss us, he said softly. Maybe we rushed into the break thing. I'm respecting your need for space, I replied, pulling my hand back. As roommates. His eyes flashed. Don't be like that. Like what I asked. Clear. He ate the entire meal himself out of spite. I added the cost of the ingredients to his tab because I'm petty in the way accountants are petty with receipts. Then came the practical warfare. He forgot to pay rent, claimed his banking app was glitching for 5 days. He started using my premium shampoo like it was communal property. I moved it to my room. He called me petty. I opened the contract and pointed to the clause about personal items. He invited Danielle over constantly every night. Some excuse, some project, some loud laughter in the living room. Takeout containers left open like a dare, and noises that weren't subtle enough to be accidental. I started documenting everything. Dates, times, photos, videos. Because I wasn't just living with my ex-boyfriend, now I was living with someone who thought boundaries were a joke until consequences arrived. The best part was the phone call from his mother. Her tone was already sharpened before she even finished saying hello. Elliot says you're being financially abusive, she snapped. I let the silence stretch just long enough to make her hear herself. How so? Making him pay half. When you earn more, she said. Like that ended the discussion. He wanted to be roommates, I replied evenly. Roommates split costs equally. You're supposed to take care of him, she insisted. I said, when he was my boyfriend. He asked for a break. I respected that. This is manipulation, she spat. He literally asked for this setup, I said, and before she could pivot, the line went dead. Then Friday happened. Elliot had his friends over for wine. Night 3 guys from his circle who acted like adulthood was something that happened to other people. They got loud, the kind of loud that performs for an audience. I stayed in my room recording audio, the way I'd started doing any time his friends were around because people get sloppy when they think they're winning. I heard my name tossed around like it was an inside joke. I can't believe she's making you pay, one of them slurred. That's so toxic. Another laughed. She thinks she can just flip a switch and act like a landlord. Then Elliot, smug and confident, said the line that changed everything because it wasn't anger anymore. It was a plan. Whatever he said, in 3 weeks when the lease renews, I'll tell her I'm not signing unless things go back to how they were. She can't afford this place alone. She'll cave. I stopped recording. I didn't feel shocked. I felt clear, like a window being wiped clean after months of fog. He thought my stability was a trap I built for myself. He thought my love was a contract he could renegotiate whenever it suited him. He thought I'd panic and beg. He didn't know I'd been saving that extra 70% for months, not because I planned to leave, but because I planned for everything. And if he wanted to turn our home into a negotiation table, then fine. I opened my laptop, pulled up listings, and started apartment hunting that night, quietly, efficiently, and with the kind of calm you only get when you finally stop trying to be understood by someone committed to misunderstanding you. By Monday morning, I'd found the perfect apartment. Same neighborhood, quieter building, brighter windows, and somehow it was $300 cheaper than the place Elliot had been using as leverage like a weapon. The photos looked like peace. The leasing agent's voice on the phone sounded like a person who had never screamed into a pillow at 2 a.m. because the man in the next room was laughing with the woman who helped end your relationship. I didn't celebrate. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even let myself feel hopeful. I just paid the deposit. Because hope is fragile and paperwork is not. While I was signing digital forms in my office, Elliot was texting me like nothing had happened. No apology. No acknowledgement of his wine night confession. Just little baited hooks. Hey, did you see my blue button-up? And can you add oat milk to the grocery list like I was still the same woman who moved through life, smoothing the edges for him? I answered with one sentence. Please purchase your own groceries per our roommate contract. His reply came back instantly. Wow, you're really doing this. Yes, Elliot, I am really doing the thing you asked for. The thing you laughed about. The thing you thought I didn't have the spine to enforce. That evening, I printed out a formal notice and slid it into a clear plastic sleeve like it was evidence, because in a way it was. Per our roommate contract, this is my 30-day notice that I will not renew the lease. Please confirm your plans by end of day Friday. I left it on the counter under the fruit bowl, because I wanted him to find it while reaching for something sweet. He found it an hour later. I heard the paper snap as he yanked it free, then his footsteps pounding toward my room. He didn't knock. He never knocked when he thought he had a right to my space. He shoved my door open so hard it bounced against the wall. What the hell is this? He shouted, holding the notice up like it was a personal attack. I didn't flinch. I didn't even look up right away. I just clicked to save on my laptop because I've learned the hard way that men like Elliot will try to make you forget what you were doing, try to drag you into their storm so you can't keep building your boat. It's a 30-day notice, I said calmly. It's in the contract you signed. You can't just leave, he snapped. His face had that tight, furious panic now, the kind that comes when someone realizes their control isn't real. Where am I supposed to live? That's not my job anymore, I said. Then I pointed at my desk drawer where I kept the printed contract with a neon sticky note on the relevant clause, Section 8.1. Either party may terminate with 30 days' notice. His voice cracked in a way that almost made him sound younger than 27. I can't afford this place alone, Naomi. There it was, the real truth. Not I need space, not rediscover myself, not mature and practical. Just the raw, naked fear that the bill was finally going to have his name on it. I leaned back and finally met his eyes. Then renew the lease yourself with a new roommate, I said, or find somewhere cheaper. His jaw worked like he was chewing on his pride. Danielle can't, she has a lease. Oh, I said softly. So she has boundaries and commitments. Interesting. His eyes flashed. You're doing this to punish me. I let out a small breath. Not a laugh. Something colder. I'm doing this because I don't want to listen to my ex-boyfriend perform independence in the living room while still expecting me to finance it. He went still like I'd slapped him with the truth. Then his face rearranged into something else tears. Not sad tears. Angry tears. Tears designed to make me feel guilty for staying calm. You're ruining everything, he shouted. No, I said quietly. You did that when you asked for a break but wanted the same perks. I'm just being consistent. He slammed my door so hard the picture frame above my desk fell. The glass cracked on the floor. I watched it for a second, then opened my phone and took a photo. Apartment damage I typed into my notes app. Evidence saved. That night, Elliot called Danielle. I heard it through the wall because he didn't care enough to keep his voice down anymore. Or maybe he wanted me to hear. Maybe he wanted me to finally crack to come running out like the old Naomi. He's abandoning me, he whined. Yes, whined into the phone. Can't you get out of your lease? A pause. What do you mean you live with your ex? He demanded. Another pause. Longer. She's just a roommate now, he insisted, like repeating the phrase would turn it into reality. Why can't I stay there? What do you mean she wouldn't be comfortable? The irony almost made my teeth hurt. Danielle's living situation was messy, shocking. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Elliot's older brother, Marcus, because Elliot never fought alone when he could outsource pressure to family. Marcus Elliot says you're kicking him out. Me, nope. I'm not renewing the lease. He has 30 days. Marcus, he's crying, says you're heartless. I stared at the screen, then typed with the same clinical calm I used when writing code. Me, he wanted to be roommates. Roommates move out sometimes. A minute later, Marcus, brutal. Mom wants to know if you need help moving. I almost smiled at that. Not because I wanted Marcus on my side, but because I wanted Elliot to feel what it's like when his narrative doesn't stick. By Thursday, Elliot went nuclear. I came home from work and found my gaming console set up in the living room like a trophy. There was a handwritten sign taped to it in black marker. Communal property now, share and share alike. I stood there for a long moment, letting the anger rise and settle like sediment. Then I took photos from 3 angles unplugged, carried it back to my room, and locked my door. 10 minutes later, he was pounding on it. You can't do that, he yelled. I opened the door just enough to look at him. I can, I said. It's mine. It was in the living room, he argued. His voice had that ridiculous, righteous tone like he'd found a loophole in reality. And you moved it without permission, I said. So I invoiced you. I held out a piece of paper. Unauthorized touching of personal property fee, $50, Section 4.3. He snatched the paper and looked at it like it was written in another language. There's no Section 4.3, he shouted. I reached into my folder and pulled out the contract, flipped to the page, pointed. There was. He'd signed without reading. Again. His face went pale, then red. You're insane, he hissed. No, I said. I'm thorough. Friday night, he didn't come home. I found out from the sudden silence, the kind that feels like a held breath. Later, I saw a story posted by one of his friends, Elliot, sprawled on a couch, wine glass, in hand, captioned like a joke, free at last. Saturday morning, he came back with backup. His father, Greg Hayes, and his younger brother, Ethan. They stood in my living room like they owned it. Big shoulders, crossed arms, that same inherited confidence that women will fold if you just stand tall enough. Greg didn't bother with hello. Naomi, you need to be reasonable, he said, voice heavy with authority. I am, I replied. Ethan stepped forward. He can't afford to stay here alone. Then he should move, I said. Greg's face tightened. He shouldn't have to uproot his life because you're being petty. I looked at Elliot then. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He just stared at the floor like he was suddenly a child again, letting the adults fight his battles. He uprooted our relationship, I said evenly. I'm following his lead. Ethan got closer, trying to crowd me. So you're going to leave a man homeless? He has a job, I said. Savings, and 20 days to find a place. He's not homeless. Greg's voice lowered. You're supposed to protect him from consequences. I tilted my head. No, I said softly. He's supposed to be an adult. For the first time, Greg looked unsure, like he hadn't expected calm resistance, like he'd expected tears, bargaining, pleading. They left after more bluster, Greg muttering about what kind of woman I was, Ethan throwing Elliot an arm around his shoulders, like Elliot was the victim of a hurricane he'd personally invited into our home. After the door shut, the apartment went quiet. I heard Elliot's bedroom door close. Then I heard him sob. Not gentle sobs, the loud, furious kind, because he wasn't grieving me. He was grieving the lifestyle he thought I owed him. I felt bad for about 2 seconds. Then I remembered the way he'd laughed when he signed the contract, the way he'd called me dramatic, the way he'd planned to corner me at lease renewal like a hostage negotiation. That night he posted on social media a long paragraph about how his abusive ex was making him homeless because she couldn't handle a strong man needing space. He didn't name me, but he didn't have to. Our mutual friends knew. The comments rolled in fast, emotional, messy. My phone lit up like a fire alarm. And that's when I realized something important. Elliot wasn't just trying to punish me in private anymore. He was trying to rewrite the story in public. So I opened my notes app and I typed one clean response, careful, controlled, sharp enough to cut without looking angry. Then I hit post. My post was only 3 sentences. Interesting how a relationship break still expects me to cover 70% of the rent. Anyway, I'm moving out at the end of the month. If anyone needs a financially responsible roommate, let me know. No insults, no names, no screenshots. Just math. The comments exploded within minutes. Some people defended him. Some defended me. A few mutual friends started quietly deleting their earlier sympathy messages to Elliot. The narrative shifted, not dramatically, not in a cinematic swoop, but enough to create doubt. And doubt is powerful. Then my inbox chimed with a message that made me sit up straighter. Harper Lawson, Elliot's ex-girlfriend. We'd never spoken before. I only knew her name from the early days of our relationship, how he'd described her as too clingy and not supportive of his growth. The usual vocabulary men use when they don't want to admit they were the unstable variable. Her message was simple. Hey, I saw your post. I might need a roommate too. Weird timing. I stared at the screen for a long moment before replying. Weird how her typing bubble appeared almost instantly. My ex just started seeing someone new. We were on a break. He said he needed to rediscover himself. We kept living together because it was practical. The words made my stomach go cold. When did this break start? I asked. About 2 months ago, she replied. Why? My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Because my boyfriend asked for a break 3 weeks ago, and his mentor's name is Danielle Mercer. 3 dots. Then nothing. Then we need to talk. We met for coffee the next afternoon. Harper was nothing like the villain Elliot had painted. She was composed, sharp-eyed, wearing a blazer that suggested she had a job where details mattered. She didn't look heartbroken. She looked tired. We compared timelines like detectives laying out evidence. 2 months ago, Elliot tells Harper he needs space. They'll stay roommates. 3 weeks ago, Elliot asked me for the same arrangement. 3 weeks ago, Danielle asked Harper if she'd be okay with having friends over sometimes. 3 weeks ago, Elliot starts staying late at work. The symmetry was nauseating. Then Harper dropped the bomb. Danielle told Elliot she lives alone, Harper said quietly. But she doesn't. I blinked. What? She lives with her ex, Harper continued. And whenever Elliot came over, Danielle made me stay at my sister's place. She told him I'd already moved out. My chest tightened. So Elliot thought she was single. Yes, Harper said, and Danielle told him they were both on clean breaks. We sat in silence for a second, absorbing the layers. 2 breaks, 2 apartments, 4 people, and the same manipulative script being used in parallel. Harper pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots messages from Danielle dated the exact week Elliot had sat me down at our kitchen table. He's finally ready to take space from her, Danielle had written. It's messy, but worth it. I felt something shift inside me. Not heartbreak, not even anger. Clarity. Elliot hadn't masterminded anything. He'd been playing in someone else's fantasy. A fantasy where he was the brave man choosing himself unaware that he was just a pawn in a rotation. And Danielle, she'd been running the same practical roommate break playbook in 2 households. Harper leaned back in her chair. I'm done, she said flatly. I told Danielle she needs to move out. She said she can't afford the place alone. I almost laughed. Neither can Elliot, I said. We looked at each other. Then Harper tilted her head slightly. You said you're moving out. I am. And you need a roommate. Yes. And I need one too. The idea hung there between us. Not revenge, not chaos. Just poetic symmetry. This could get messy, I said carefully. Or it could be efficient, Harper replied. We both have jobs. We both pay bills on time. We both just learned to read contracts. I smiled despite myself. We didn't decide on the spot. We agreed to think about it. But something about the conversation felt steady, clean. There was no flirting, no tension. Just two women comparing notes on the same disaster and realizing they deserved quieter rooms. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, Elliot had escalated. He used all my coffee pods, $60 worth, like he was draining resources out of spite. He borrowed my laptop charger and claimed he couldn't find it. He invited 10 people over for a party without notice blasting music until 3 in the morning. I documented everything. Photos of empty boxes, videos of noise levels, screenshots of our contract clauses, and daily invoices emailed at exactly 9:00 a.m. He ignored them. Then on Monday of week 3, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hey, this is Danielle. We should talk." Interesting. We met at a quiet bar near her office. She ordered a drink like she owned the room. Confident, polished. The kind of woman who knew how to reframe a story before anyone else could. "Look," she began, offering me a tight smile. "Elliot is great, but he's intense. He pushed this whole break thing." I blinked slowly. "He told me you suggested it," I said. Her smile faltered for half a second. Well, she corrected smoothly he was unhappy. I encouraged him to choose himself. "And to keep living with me?" I asked. She shrugged. It was practical. The word again. Practical. Like emotions were utilities you could split on a spreadsheet. "Are you still living with Harper?" I asked calmly. Her glass paused halfway to her lips. "You talked to Harper?" "She might be my new roommate," I said evenly. For the first time, Danielle looked unsettled. "You can't do that to Elliot," she said sharply. "Do what I asked. Get a roommate." "That's vindictive." "Is it?" I tilted my head. "You told Elliot you lived alone." Her silence confirmed everything. "Danielle," I said gently, "you orchestrated 2 breaks in 2 apartments at the same time. That's not romance, that's logistics." She set her drink down harder than necessary. "This isn't about me," she snapped. "It never is," I replied. She left 10 minutes later, and I knew then exactly what I was going to do. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted peace. The next morning, Harper and I signed a lease together. Strict clauses. No shared expenses without agreement. No overnight guests more than twice a week. And one golden rule written at the top in bold. No dating within the apartment, ever. When Elliot found out, because Danielle told him within minutes, he burst through the front door like a siren. "You're moving in with Harper," he shouted. "I am," I said calmly. "That's unhinged." "It's practical," I replied. He looked like I'd knocked the air out of him. "You're doing this to hurt me. Not everything is about you, Elliot." He threw a mug at the wall. It shattered. I took a photo, added $30 to the invoice. And for the first time since he'd asked for that break, I felt something close to relief. Because the game he thought he was playing, it had rules. And I had the rule book. Moving day arrived like a courtroom date. I was up at 6, coffee brewed, boxes sealed, movers scheduled for 8 sharp. I'd labeled everything with color-coded stickers because chaos doesn't scare me, uncertainty does. And I'd removed that weeks ago. Elliot was supposed to be at work. Instead, he called in sick. Of course he did. He stood in the hallway when the movers arrived, arms crossed, jaw tight, watching every box like it might contain his dignity. "Don't you dare take anything that's mine," he warned as they stepped inside. "Wouldn't dream of it," I replied calmly. They started with the living room. When they lifted the TV off the stand, Elliot lunged forward. "That's ours." I pulled a folder from my tote bag and handed the receipt to the lead mover without even looking at Elliot. Purchased 3 months before we moved in together. My name, my card. Elliot's voice cracked. "We shared it." "You wanted to be roommates," I said evenly. "Roommates don't co-own televisions by assumption." He looked around wildly like someone might side with him out of sheer confusion. No one did. When they carried out my desk, he accused me of taking shared workspace furniture. Receipt. When they unplugged the router, he claimed he paid for internet. Bank statements. When they boxed up the kitchenware I'd purchased, he sputtered about emotional value. "Emotional value doesn't override transaction history," I said. He called the police. I didn't. They arrived 20 minutes later, bored and undercaffeinated. Elliot launched into a dramatic monologue about theft and financial abuse and being suddenly abandoned. I handed one officer the receipts and the contract. He flipped through it slowly. "Looks like a civil matter," he said flatly. Elliot's face flushed crimson. "She's ruining my life." The officer didn't blink. "Sir, she's moving out." And that was that. As the movers loaded the final box, I walked over to Elliot and handed him a neat envelope. "What's this?" he demanded. "Final invoice," I said. He ripped it open. $2,847. Unpaid rent difference, utilities, coffee pods, food consumed post-contract, property damage, noise violations per clause, replacement charger. Cleaning fees. You're insane, he whispered. I'm consistent, I replied. He tore the invoice in half. I pulled another copy from my folder. I made extras. That's when the landlord arrived for the walkthrough. Timing is everything. He stepped inside, clipboard in hand, and immediately noticed the cracked drywall in the hallway, the wine stains on the carpet, the dent near the bedroom door. I have documentation, I said, smoothly handing him printed photos organized by date. He flipped through them, eyebrows rising. Elliot tried to interrupt. She's exaggerating. The landlord turned to him. These timestamps match the complaints from neighbors. Elliot went silent. Then came the deposit conversation. We paid that together, Elliot said quickly. I handed the landlord our bank records. I paid the full security deposit, I said. He was supposed to reimburse me half. He never did. The landlord studied the transfer history. Then, without ceremony, he wrote a check. To me, full deposit returned, plus a note that Elliot would owe an additional $400 for damages beyond normal wear. Elliot stared at the check like it was betrayal made tangible. You can't, he started. But the landlord was already walking toward the door. Once the apartment was empty, except for him, I paused. Not dramatically. Just long enough to let him understand the quiet. This didn't have to be like this, he said, voice suddenly small. I studied him for a second. It was almost surreal how much smaller he looked without the illusion of control. No audience, no family backup, no girlfriend waiting in the wings. You wanted independence, I said gently. This is what it costs. He didn't respond. I left. The aftermath unfolded fast. Danielle's practical arrangement imploded when Harper served her formal notice with legal backing. Turns out Harper had actually read their lease. Danielle couldn't qualify for a new apartment alone, not with the complaints attached to her rental history. Elliot tried to move in with her. She refused. Apparently intense loses its charm when it comes with debt and damaged drywall. Within 2 weeks, they were both back at their parents' houses. I heard this through mutual friends who slowly, awkwardly began apologizing for believing his social media narrative. Sienna messaged me privately. I didn't know he owed everyone money too. Oh, yes. That surfaced eventually. Elliot had been borrowing from friends to cover nights out and unexpected expenses. Apparently, independence was expensive when someone else stopped subsidizing it. He never paid the invoice. So I filed in small claims court. He didn't show up. Default judgment. Add that to the growing list of consequences. Meanwhile, Harper and I settled into our new apartment like adults who appreciate silence. We pay bills on time. We label food. We knock before entering each other's rooms. We share a mutual understanding that romance does not cross the threshold. Peace is addictive. 6 months later, I got a text from Elliot. I know you hate me, but I see now I messed up. You were an amazing girlfriend. I threw it away for nothing. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed, per our contract, communication should be about outstanding debts only. You currently owe $3.247, including interest. Send. He blocked me. Harper laughed so hard she nearly spilled her wine. We high-fived and went back to watching our separate TVs in our separate rooms, like proper roommates. My brother called me ruthless. My mother called me brilliant. My father just said never date someone who can't do math. Solid advice. Oh, and there's one more update. I'm seeing someone new. Lucas Bennett. We met at my climbing gym. He pays his own membership. He pays for his own coffee. He once insisted on splitting a bill down to the cent without turning it into a performance. The first time things got serious, he said something that made me smile. If we ever move in together, he told me, and one of us wants a break, the person asking for it moves out. I nodded. That's fair, I said. He grinned. I can do math. He's a keeper. And to anyone who says I was too harsh, he wanted a break but expected the benefits. He wanted freedom without financial responsibility. He wanted to test another woman while I paid for the Wi-Fi. No, he asked for a roommate. He got one. Then he lost her. Actions meet consequences. They've been waiting to meet.